Over the past several weeks, I've heard from dozens of Utah industries with concerns about newly imposed tariffs. Not a day goes by that I don't hear from a Utahn worried about how these tariffs might negatively affect their businesses and make their products that Utah families rely on much more expensive. In a recent meeting with representatives from Utah's agricultural industry, these farmers and ranchers articulated to me that the retaliation from our trade partners as a direct result of tariffs imposed by the U.S. is costing Utah farmers millions of dollars every month. This comes at a time when farmers are already struggling to make ends meet. As a strong supporter of free trade and of free market principles, I'm generally not a big supporter of tariffs. This doesn't mean that, like President Donald Trump, I do not have a legitimate concern about our trade deficits. I recognize that bad actors, like China, consistently cheat on trade by manipulating their currency, stealing American intellectual property, and saturating markets with overproduced steel and aluminum to significantly damage U.S. companies and the overall U.S. economy. I strongly believe that no country wins a trade war, but I also believe that China is responsible for starting this trade war several decades ago. Our president should be commended for finally fighting back in dealing with China's predatory trade and investment practices. I believe that tariffs could be an appropriate tool, but I also believe there are other potentially more desirable tools at our government's disposal to address these trade imbalances without further escalating China's trade war. Where I strongly believe that imposing tariffs is most troubling is when the U.S. imposes tariffs on our largest trade partners and closest allies in the name of national security. Congress granted the power to impose tariffs based on national security under Section 232 of the 1962 Trade Expansion Act. Currently, these tariffs are not punitive on specific bad actors, but rather are far-reaching and applied to all countries, including our largest trade partners and closest allies. Unfortunately, these tariffs are not only damaging U.S. companies and industries, they also harm our friends as well. For this reason, I joined Representative Mike Gallagher and a bipartisan group to co-author H.R. 6337, a bill that would require the President to get congressional approval on any proposal to adjust imports in the interest of national security under Section 232. This bill, which was overwhelmingly passed by the Senate this week on a large margin of 88 to 11, would give Congress 60 days to review a President's proposal on national security tariffs. I strongly believe that Congress has a significant role to play when determining America's trade policies, and I'm hopeful that my colleagues in Congress will be supportive of this bipartisan effort.